Anxiety. Don't play innocent. We all know you're the villain in this story. So let's discover what anxiety's true intentions are in this Inside Out 2 recap. The whole story begins with a 12-year-old Riley, who is ready to have a deep sleep that'll bring many changes upon waking up. A year later, we find Riley a little older. She's starting her championship hockey game, and inside her mind we find the group leader, Joy, who is accompanied by Anger, who's preparing to tackle their opponents, while Fear ensures Riley uses all possible protection. Disgust and Sadness also join the group, because they've now learned how to work as a team. Riley manages to win the game. Her parents celebrate enthusiastically, and a girl in the stands watches her, who'll be very important in the story. Later, the family goes home to celebrate Riley's 13th birthday. After blowing out the candles and eating cake, Riley gets ready for bed. Here, Joy turns off the console, because this day has ended very well. However, a couple of hours later, a red button starts to beep and flash, alerting the emotions, who approach and wonder what's going on. At that moment, the alarm suddenly activates, initiating the chaos of puberty. The engineers that work non-stop arrive and start destroying the entire headquarters, implying that puberty will bring chaos to Riley's mind. They input codes and commands for the new emotions and leave everything in a mess. The emotions, seeing that everything has calmed down, return to sleep. Of course, confused, but they don't pay much attention because tomorrow will be a great work day. The next day, Joy wakes up with great enthusiasm to work. With all spirits high, she informs her teammates of their tasks for the day, to continue with the usual routine so that Riley can continue to have a happy and peaceful life. Riley arrives at middle school, and as we see, Joy is the only one manipulating the control panel. But then, the emotions observe the new study environment, and at that moment, the thought turns orange, surprising the emotions. Joy asks where that color came from, and Anger, Sadness, Disgust, and Fear say it wasn't them. And that's when the owner of the color appears. Anxiety arrives, burdened with so much baggage. But this emotion hasn't come alone. She has her own group of emotions. The first one is Little Envy, the second is Shame, and the last one is called Ennui, who is actually Boredom, who seems to manipulate the control panel from her phone. And yes, this ability is quite broken. The group leader is Anxiety, who has her own ideas about Riley's future, as Joy's ideology is for Riley to always keep a smile in the face of life's problems, while Anxiety wants Riley to be alert and think of solutions to all those problems, even if they're not yet a threat, like problems with friends, envy, shame, acne, etc. And yes, thinking about all this is what will provoke anxiety in Riley. So a rivalry begins here, for taking leadership and manipulating the control panel, because as we know, Joy doesn't share the controls too much. But well, Riley arrives at middle school and meets the girl who saw her playing hockey. She approaches Riley, and Riley would be very excited. However, Anxiety would order her to not show emotion, but rather to be calm and relaxed, simply for a smoother conversation for this age. However, Joy wouldn't accept Anxiety's help, because she sees her as an emotion without experience. So she takes charge of the situation alone. But this wouldn't go very well, because she would embarrass Riley, and this would surely traumatize Anxiety forever. So this is when Anxiety begins to get angry with Joy's leadership, as she doesn't share the control panel and isn't good for Riley. So Anxiety will do whatever it takes to take control. That's why, behind the main emotions' backs, Anxiety would start devising her plan. But first, she would demonstrate that she can solve Riley's problems without Joy. For this, she manipulates the control panel and solves the problem with the unknown girl. Due to all this, an orange thought is created, and Anxiety tells Joy that Riley has entered a new stage of her life, and that's why she needs more sophisticated emotions. Shame holds everyone, and Anxiety dismisses them, saying it's nothing personal, and now the emotions have been repressed and locked in a jar. The next day, Anxiety would start manipulating the controls, and Riley would wake up with a face similar to Anxiety's. Riley's mom would be surprised because she knows the era of rebellion has begun, and she'll have to try a little harder to understand her daughter, and so it'll be for the next 10 years. The new leader would look for new friends for her, some more popular ones, and would order the sub-areas of work, and thus design new models to change Riley. The girl would start to envy her friend's possessions, and also feel ashamed of her family's behavior. She wouldn't do homework and other chores around the house due to boredom, and all this and more because the era of anxiety has begun. On the other hand, the main emotions, with the help of anger, would manage to free themselves from the glass container. However, in their escape, sadness would fall into the water, and the current would take her far from her friends, but they wouldn't leave her behind because they got on a boat and went to rescue her. However, they didn't count on an abyss appearing in their way, and sadness will fall into the deep pit. Joy would start devising a way to get her out of there, asking for help from the workers, but they wouldn't listen to her and would leave the place. Meanwhile, deep in the pit, we find Sadness very alone and of course sad, thinking her friends have already forgotten about her. But suddenly, some sarcastic voices singing Bing Boing's song would be heard.
Who's your friend who likes to play?
His rocket makes you yell hooray!
Sadness, upon hearing this, would get up, wipe her tears and look for a way out, because Joy wouldn't leave until they are all together. On the other hand, outside, Riley would be completely changed, as she would be putting on many faces in front of different realities, and that's because anxiety has filled her head with many existential problems, so many that Riley has lost her identity, and now she would be living a life without joy. Anxiety's plans don't go as planned. She would try to clarify that Riley looks very bad, but Anxiety's desire to be the leader wouldn't allow her to see the reality of the girl, and that's why Anxiety would continue to work on all the problems, even if she's already made a mistake and doesn't realize it. The biggest mistake someone can make is not realizing their mistakes, even if it's right in front of them. Eventually, Joy and all the others in her group would arrive at the control panel to put Anxiety in her place, and she'll probably end up accepting her mistake, and Joy will accept that Anxiety isn't as bad as she seems. Tell me, friends, what do you think we'll see in Inside Out 2? Leave your ideas in the comments.